Hi everyone and welcome to this Enneagram series. Today we've got Krista from lifeinprogress.ca. And Krista is a writer and describes herself as a joyful living educator, which I just love because, let's be honest, who doesn't need a little bit more joy in their lives? And Krista resonates with a type 1 on the Enneagram. So welcome Krista and thanks for being here.
Hi Jessica, it's really fun to chat with you again.
So we're going to dive straight in, and it would be great if you can speak to our listeners a little bit around what it's like for you to be a type 1. How does it show up for you?
Well, because I love this topic, I feel like I could even just sit with that one question for 8 hours because it's ever evolving to some degree as I learn about myself and how I move through the world. Yet I also see these patterns that just are still there, ever present. So for instance, this inner critic, a sense of never quite being good enough. Also a desire to always make things better, but really from a very altruistic place where I really can care about people and I care about the world. And I see, like, for instance, even just thinking like, well, why can't we all just be kind and like respectful, or even to the details of, seeing in somebody's business details about how you could become more efficient or productive. So I feel like I'm not a person who's ever at rest or at ease, even though I'm not a fast mover. And people have often commented to me for years and years and years about how like calm and patient I am. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you don't know what's going on in here. And I've never felt like I just like sailed through life. It's always grappling, wrestling, questioning. Even in my desire to offer myself more love or gentleness, there's always this tension and work.
Interesting the way you describe that kind of inner voice going on in your head. And it sounds like, well, I suppose both a gift to the world, but also a challenge for you personally, because I can see the benefits of engaging with the type 1 because of that ability to see the good in everything and to see the opportunity for betterment or improvement. But I can also hear the struggle, like the inner turmoil that's going on. Can you speak a little bit more to that kind of inner voice?
Yeah, so I would say that my inner critic has ripped me to shreds. Like she is so mean and vicious. But she's a lot quieter now because I've learned that she doesn't get to be the boss. And so, but in the past, I have a history with anxiety and depression, even suicide attempts, which is horrible to say out loud, and yet there it is. And I think that it's very much tangled up with my oneness, this sense of not having what it takes, a profound awareness of all the pain and the suffering in the world, and I can't fix it. And so really like carrying this weight through my life, but now also allowing that, I feel like I lost a little bit the question. So the question, Jessica, was, can you reframe it again?
So the understanding I was looking for is that inner voice that's going on, and you started by saying what the inner critic was saying to you.
Yeah, right, okay. So I have this sort of mean past with this inner critic, and I feel like where I am now, because I am so clear that I am strength and struggle, that it doesn't dissolve the tension. It's not that I ever, I'm not sure I ever have one day in my whole life where I don't wake up and have to work hard at loving myself. It's like it is effort. It's like it comes so much more naturally now because I just genuinely do. I love myself now, but I work at it, right? And so it's like as I try to really leverage my strength even to help others love themselves and see their giftedness. Like I try to offer that because it's what I have needed, but I'm still so much in progress with them. And people don't always see that. So I'm spinning off. I know you'll just pull the reins back, Jessica, when you need to. But I feel like people can observe and they make assumptions about who we are. And so for me, one of the things is always like, I've got my act together. I'm a really excellent manager. I think, again, it's part of my oneness is like, I am super proficient. I have systems and processes and I can like budget and I do all these things well. But inside, I can be feeling like I'm in despair. I'm so like profoundly, like I am sitting with grief, or I am just so aware of my own lack or something like that. And so even as I think this is one of the ways I survive in the world is I use my strengths to help offer that hope and encouragement to others who also have that like constant sense of never enough, never good enough. And so I offer to them that which I have needed, and it's part of my own healing journey.
It's amazing how we often find the work that we need to do most ourselves. So what comes to mind is an Enneagram 8 that I've worked with recently, who's actually a Brené Brown coach. And it's amazing to me because the big lesson for Enneagram 8s is, of course, vulnerability. And that's at the core of Brené Brown's work. So it's incredible that through her own journey of dealing with that, she stumbled across this work and is now sharing it with the rest of the world. So I think that's so encouraging to the type ones out there, because I often notice that people see this perfectionism in themselves. They see it as a constraint, a kind of almost rigidity that they're dying to let go of, but often don't believe that they can. So you're such a lovely example of the work that can happen to help you learn to accept and love yourself with ease and grace and joy. Yes, you still happen to be a type 1 strict perfectionist, but you're aware of that now, and you do the work to give yourself a little bit of a break.
Yeah, and one of the things, like even people who have known me for a long time, they say things like, you've really changed. You know, it's interesting. So in my 40s, I went through a place of, in my early 40s, deep, deep crises. So even 5 years ago, I was very much in that place. I'm 47, so we know the timeline. And I came out of that crisis changed. There's no doubt. It's not that I wasn't trying to do this work already, but I feel like I was trying to do this work from a very one perspective where it's like, I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to I can read all the self-help books and all the rules. And it was very like rule oriented. Just tell me how to do it. And I've got this, you know? And then I went through this deep, deep dark valley where I realized I couldn't do that anymore. Like not only did I not have it in me, but I realized that it was, what I found in that place was surrender. And I struggle with that word still because I want to analyze it and know exactly, how to define it. But it's like, I think that's what I found was this place of just loosening my grip. And looking back and witnessing how the very best and most beautiful gifts of my entire life came not by my effort, like not because I had like micromanaged and had my 20-year plan and nothing had gone according to script. And yet I had this beautiful family and this partner who I wrestled with, and yet we loved each other. And I had lost multiple family members to cancer and it was horrible. And yet I saw the beauty in the world. And so I came out of that place, I do feel like transformed on one level. And yet like at the core, I'm still me. But the transformation, I think, was really around self-compassion. And then moving towards this idea of joyful possibility. the sense that I don't have to have all the answers. I don't even have to know where I'm going beyond this one step ahead of me, and it's okay. And I can relax into that and rest and just be here and scan for the gifts in this right here, and then let life unfold a little bit and kind of like move through it with a little bit more joyful possibility. And it just changed my life.
Wow. I mean, that's quite significant. And to the extent that you talking about it in terms of a transformation of people around you, relationships, noticing the change in you, that's quite massive. And at the same time, my experience of the Enneagram is that we can make such great progress for sure, and we can use it as a development tool to reach past our single lens and to start integrating. And yet what I've noticed for sure in myself is that when I'm in a space of stress, or things do kind of fall apart a little bit, I tend to flop back straight to the core of my type. Do you notice that happening at all?
Yes. Yeah. And even I want to make this really clear for people who, like, because I don't want to mislead. When I say that I am changed and people are noticing that, it is true. And it is also true that the core of who I am, all my wiring is still there. Like, that didn't change, but the thing that changed was my compassion. That's it. Like, all the inner critic didn't leave suddenly. The desire for my life to be perfectly ordered didn't leave. It's that I can almost like, I can hold that tension a little bit differently. And just, I feel like when we put down these deeper roots of self-awareness and self-compassion, it can't help but spill over into the world around us. But I'm still me, and my husband would attest to that, because even this morning I was like grumbly about messes in the kitchen and stuff. And I'm like, why can't people just like put things away? Yes. So in stress, so master procrastinator, I have always been, and it's totally fear-based, right? And so when I've learned to kind of go beneath, like, what's happening, it's always this sense of like, my work won't be good enough. Like, it doesn't even matter. I was an honor student in school and university, not good enough. You know, I did this and that. Like, I have a beautiful family, not good enough. It's just like this. So then when I'm triggered, I tend to start pulling back and procrastinating. And so I would do that just ridiculously. Like in school, if I thought I would get anything less than excellent, I would prefer to take a 0, like not hand in something. And even recently, so I'm doing this new course, and I got super, super triggered. Like, it's a course about fear, Jessica. And my fear just came like, and just massively, massively triggered. And all these stories came up, and I made some very practical, logical adjustments to kind of be gentle with myself, but not quit, right? Because that's one of my things is like, in the past I would just quit and retreat, and now I'm like, nope, not getting off that easily. Like, I'm determined to do the work. But I was able to kind of shift a couple things to make it feel less, just to kind of keep it in my zone of gifting almost. But also, I Netflixed for 3 weeks. I stopped writing the course. I was halfway through, and I stopped, and I hid under the covers. And I'm so clear on what I was doing, very, very aware, and also really, really struggling. And so in stress, I still have, I still, that voice of my inner critic, I think that's what it is, but it's like, it's always fear for me. Like, that's what I witness. I mean, I know, so we can go beneath fear and identify more, but like at the surface, at least, it's like, I am so triggered and anxious and fearful. And it's like, but why? Like, there's nothing bad in my life. I know I can teach. I know I can write. I know I can do these things, but it's like, but somehow I know it's never going to be quite good enough. It's never going to, and anyway. But the other thing is like just my desire for order in the world, for people to follow rules, and like, why can't people just close cupboards? If you can open a cupboard, you know how to close a cupboard. And like, annoyed, like just annoyed at like small little things, and really having to like watch my mouth, you know, so I'm not hurting my family, and just like sometimes it just means removing myself. Like very practically, it means in the mornings when my husband is getting ready for work, I try to avoid being out here, because it's better for our relationship if I stay in my room. I let him go through his morning routine peacefully and get out the door without me nagging about ridiculous things.
I love that awareness, because, you know, we're human. We're going to fall into our repetitive behaviors, particularly when we're stressed. And we're going to keep doing that. I don't imagine us turning into enlightened beings at any time in the future. But I love that you have that awareness, so you come up with very practical ways to make sure that you don't get sucked into the story of it. So, you know, you mentioned a tactic of, I'm going to stay in my room while that's playing out, to avoid getting into the less healthy side of the one, but also the awareness of seeing how the pattern can unfold. So, okay, well, I'm procrastinating here. So what is it that I'm trying to avoid? What is it that I'm worried about? What am I fearful about? Or giving up, as you said. As soon as you're feeling that urge to quit, you are aware that that's telling you something about your previous tendency, and with that you can catch it and you can choose differently. You can manage it a little bit more gracefully.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I managed it all that gracefully, but I guess I really did, because I advocated well for myself. I practiced self-care and I did all of these things. So, because that is part of me learning to move through the world as a one, and the not quitting is super, super important. And because, you know, I mentioned that weight that I've carried around, like about, like somehow I should know more and I should be better and I should have resolved this issue already and I should know more of the answers and blah, 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 blah. And just, it's like, that hasn't left me. So I have wanted to opt out of the world often. And I will often opt out of things, because it's almost like better for me to opt out than, like, so even relationships, like I can notice a tendency to just, like, nothing even bad happened, but I could end up just sort of retreating, because somehow it's easier to be alone and than to not know how to do something well. Or so I'm saying this in a messy way, but one of the biggest things that has helped me is this idea that, Krista, you don't quit. You can take imperfect action, but you don't quit. You can take a baby step. You can fall, you can falter, you can go on the wrong path. It's all information. It's all good, but you don't quit. And so I've had to like practice. So even with my work, right? Like even blogging, like I look at my writing and I'm like I just see, like, none of it's good to me, but that's not the point. The point is I'm just offering that, and I don't quit. It's not even about like, do you love my words? It's about, am I showing up consistently? Because everything in me screams, you shouldn't do this. Danger, danger, danger. You know, and the danger might be that somehow I don't know what the danger is. I don't even know what there's no real danger, right? But it's like, but that's like these warning bells. And they want me to retreat and give up and quit and not do hard things. And so I have to push back against that every single day. So sometimes that looks like owning my own stuff and apologizing, you know, over and over again. Like if it's the 18th time that I've apologized, it doesn't matter. I own it. And if it means pick myself up and love myself well, I do that. And if it means take one more step in my work towards this mission that I have, because I am very mission oriented, I do that, right? So it's not about perfection. It's not about it's not at all about attaining a particular goal or outcome. It's only about showing up today.
That is so beautiful, and I think incredibly helpful to the people that are still in the big struggle of this space. You know that there is a way, not necessarily out, but through. There's a way to find peace with this aspect of self, and to actually use it in a way that is of contribution both to yourself and the world around. So if you had to maybe give a message to the people that are resonating with the type 1 and are maybe still in the heart of the struggle, where they haven't quite found their way through to that space of self-acceptance, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I don't think we ever overcome perfectionism or anything. I think it doesn't even go into remission, sadly. It's just there, but we do learn to kind of quiet that. I think, I don't have a neat and tidy answer because I think it's messy, but I think the one thing I constantly am talking about and writing about is this idea of being good enough already. I am enough. I am at the core. I am enough. I am not just broken. I am not faulty. Like I wasn't a mistake. I am enough. That means I am wired with gifts to offer. And so I know that the people who come to me often, it's this message, they are so hungry to hear this. And so interestingly, even though I'm a very growth-minded person, very much like, well, what's the practical application? How do I apply that to my life? Because I want to see, I love to learn. But there's a really important differentiating point here for me. It's that none of that work, as we are, say we work with a coach, or say we're learning to budget, or whatever it is in life, it's not because we're trying to fix ourselves. It's not because we're like, I don't even like the term, like, becoming better version. Like, a lot of these terms around this, like, become a better version and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I struggle with it because I'm like, you are already enough. So if you want to heal, grow, learn, it's not because at the core you suck and you need to become this beautiful. It's like, no, you're messy, you're human, and you are amazing. And so when we can approach life, and even a desire to learn new skills or become healthier in a relationship, again, it's like from this place of recognition that I am okay. I am okay right here. And so it's hard to transmit that in words, right? To articulate that effectively, because people might question, like, well, why do you offer courses that teach me new skills if I'm already enough? And it's like, because they're two separate things. They're two separate functions. So I would just like to say to people, I think this is the thing, is like, when I came to realize that I am already enough, I am good enough, I don't require anything else to be worthy of love or acceptable. That is where I believe that this gentle, compassionate kind of growth starts to take root, and all of a sudden things start to change. Not because really any circumstances in life change, but because all of a sudden we show up with a sense of, oh, I'm okay. I am okay. I am messy and imperfect, and I am okay. And
I can feel
so that's what I have.
it feels like this big exhale moment, this huge relief. And especially for type 1s to be able to get to that point, exactly as you say, it's not about fixing, because the tendency would then be to turn spirituality or personal growth into something that now needs to be perfected. But wow, the relief that comes from, actually, that's all lovely and that might be valuable and it might help me, but I'm okay without it too. And I'm enough as I am right here, right now. I love that, Krista. So for those of you watching this, on the page below will be Krista's contact details. And I think she's someone you want to follow. So check out her website, alifeinprogress.ca, and sign up for her blog. She shares really, really amazing content. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jessica.